I discovered a haunting message from a Type 2 civilization. Earth is in danger now. In the stillness of night, a chilling broadcast cut through the silence. It was low, scratchy, and echoed a warning no one was prepared for. Earth was in peril. A shadowy figure flickered on screen with cracked lips, eyes darting like trapped animals, spilling secrets about unimaginable technology. A Type 2 civilization had sent a clear message. It was a cry for help wrapped in a riddle. What did they know that we didn't? What darkness lurked beyond our stars? The air was thick and pulsating with unease. The townspeople gathered, drawn in by that haunting transmission of dread. People murmured, their brows furrowed like they had just seen a ghost. They remembered that distant whirl of lights in the sky from the weeks before, a cosmic dance that had painted constellations they couldn't recognize. Children saw it first, running in circles, spinning tales of creatures from another world. Was it a coincidence? Or were these omens warning them of an impending doom? The broadcast continued, the room packed with a mixture of anticipation and terror. You could feel a tightness in your chest, as if everyone was holding their breath. What could this Type 2 civilization want with us? Tension crackled like electricity as a low hum began to resonate from the speakers, vibrating through the floorboards. They urged us to listen closely, revealing hidden truths about our own existence. The clock is ticking, they said ominously. A promise of salvation, or destruction? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Everyone's eyes widened, hearts raced. The warnings grew more specific, chilling images flashing, rioting cities, rising waters, and skies darkened by something unnatural. Your time is running out, the figure warned, voice dripping with urgency. How did they know? The conversations grew frantic, hands trembling as disbelief gave way to fear. They were facing something bigger than themselves, something that felt inevitable. And just as quickly as it began, the screen flickered. The figure vanished into static. A heavy silence swept in, as if the whole world held its breath. The weight of the unknown sank in, leaving them all staring at the empty screen. They were left questioning everything. What did the message mean? What were they about to face? The path ahead was cloaked in shadows, and only the bravest would seek the truth. Who would rise to confront the impending danger, and more importantly, would anyone survive the revelation? The crowd remained frozen, eyes fixated on the fuzzy screen, but within moments, fear broke loose like a dam bursting. The murmurs became shouts, confusion mixing with dread. What do we do? Someone yelled, panic-laced. Parents hurried to their children, pulling them close as if proximity could shield them from an invisible threat. In the back of the room, Lisa felt a cold sweat trickle down her spine. She had been just a high school teacher a week ago, living a quiet life filled with grading papers and attending family barbecues. Now, she was thrust into the heart of something she couldn't understand. Urging herself to think, she gripped the edge of the nearest table. "We need to do something," she cried. "We can't just sit here waiting for the end." People turned to her, searching for direction. Eyes filled with the chaos of emotions: fear, frustration, and a sliver of hope. "What can we do?" a man asked, desperation lacing his voice. Lisa glanced around, then looked towards the nearest window. The night was silent outside, the stars twinkling with a mocking indifference. She thought about the reports of strange phenomena, unidentified flying objects that had been spotted lately, sightings that painted Earth skies with bizarre colors. Were they a warning or just old wives' tales? Declaring anything would only spark more unrest, but the sudden impulse tingled within her. We need to find the source of the transmission. We need answers. With trembling hands, Lisa pulled her phone from her pocket, eyes scanning news alerts. But the screen lit up with images of chaos riots, panic-stricken crowds, calls for refuge. There's no time to lose, she decided. People looked to her with both admiration and uncertainty. Would she lead them into danger, or was it their only chance for salvation? A familiar face emerged from the crowd, Jake, her colleague, with his glasses half-misted and expression tight. You can't be serious, Lisa. The last thing we need right now is to run blindly into the unknown. Yet even as he spoke, his voice held the weight of curiosity mingled with fear, like he too craved answers, despite the risks. Is doing nothing an option? She countered, her heart pounding. We can't ignore this. Ignorance won't protect us. The tension felt electric as murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Some were frightened, while others found themselves strangely invigorated by the urgency of the moment. One by one, hands raised tentatively, and soon a chorus of voices nodded in fervent unison. The group began to coalesce, a small army fueled by fear yet bound by a quest for truth. They would check in with local authorities, gather resources, anything to uncover what lurked behind that eerie broadcast, but as they began to gather themselves, a sudden noise pierced through the night, a low, rumbling tremor, like the ground itself was protesting their decision. Lisa felt it in her bones. The lights flickered above, hinting at a deeper unrest. A chill crawled up her arms as she realized that something was not quite right. What was that? Jake whispered, eyes wide, scanning every shadow. The crowd turned uneasy, glancing at one another with unspoken fear growing heavier. Before anyone could respond, a blinding flash erupted just outside the window, illuminating the night sky. They rushed towards the glass, hearts racing. That flash revealed a massive object hovering just above the horizon, unlike anything they'd ever encountered before. Gasps echoed through the room, and Lisa felt the unmistakable weight of dread settle back in. This was no ordinary phenomenon, reality twisted around them like an unyielding arm. What are we looking at? A voice croaked, trembling. As they stared into the cosmic unknown, an awareness sank in. The countdown had begun, and this was just the beginning. What if the Type 2 civilization wasn't just observing but had already arrived? The crowd's collective gasp echoed in the dimly lit room, a haunting sound that hung in the air like a dark cloud. Lisa's heart raced as the object continued to hover, its massive frame blocking out the stars. The atmosphere crackled with tension, the pulse of fear unmistakable. Is that a spaceship? Someone whispered, voice trembling. Lisa's eyes were glued to the window, unable to look away from the dark silhouette against the flickering nightlights of civilization below. It was a monumental structure, glistening ominously, as though it was alive and watching them. Time to go. Jake barked. He moved with urgency, trying to rally others into action, sensing that whatever that thing was, it wouldn't be long before it revealed its intentions. We can't wait around. We need to find a safe place. No. Lisa countered, taking a step closer to the window. We need to figure this out first. If it's here, it has something to do with the message. We can't just run. Her voice trembled, but there was a steeliness to her tone as she fought her own fear. The group was torn. Chaos simmered, people glancing between the floating shape and one another. Anxiety twisted their features, and children started to whimper, the innocent awareness of danger palpable in their eyes. Suddenly, the object emitted a pulse of light, a deep hum vibrating through the floor, resonating not just in their bones, but in their minds as well. It wrapped around them like an insistent whisper, urging them, calling them. Lisa instinctively took a step back, her heart pounding in her chest. Was she imagining it, or did she hear a voice intertwine with the sound? Lisa. Shivers coursed through her. It was as though the air itself had spoken directly to her, pulling something deep from within. She felt her resolve strengthen, and her breath became steadier. The light pulsed again, stronger this time, illuminating the room like midday sun and coaxing scientific curiosity from somewhere within her fearful heart. Did you feel that?" Lisa asked, turning towards Jake and the others. "Feel what?" Michael, a teacher from across the hall, shouted, panic seeping into his voice. "This isn't the time for no." She interrupted, fierce determination lacing every syllable. "It's a message. They're trying to communicate, I know it. Mark my words, Lisa, this is how it ends." Another neighbor shouted from the back. They were caught in a swirl of emotion, some shouting to leave, some urging caution. Confusion reigned as more and more people surged toward the window, but Lisa knew they had to listen. Whatever that terrifying structure was, it was aware of them. It was there for a reason. She moved to the forefront, her voice rising above the clamor. "We can't let fear dictate our actions. Let us record what we see." In a flood of anxiety and adrenaline, they began taking out their phones, capturing videos and images of the glowing object towering over them. The atmosphere shifted, urgency morphing into a desperate hope. The unknown seemed just a smidge less daunting when they united. Then, just as swiftly as it had flashed, the brilliance faded, plunging the night back into foreboding darkness. Silence fell, heavy and thick. Lisa blinked, the pulsing light was gone. She felt a knot tighten in her stomach. How could it just disappear? Someone gasped, dread suffocating the air. Before anyone could answer, the ground shook violently. People stumbled, chairs clattered, and gasps filled the void where the power of the object had been. Noise erupted from outside, a screeching, mechanical sound that brought back echoes of that pulse. The crowd screamed in unison, a raw wave of fear crashing through the room. "Stay together!" Jake shouted through the noise, grabbing Lisa's arm. The tremor intensified, and she could feel each heartbeat against her skin. But just then, in the distance, beams of light shot forth from the object, filling the night with an eerie glow that coiled like fingers around the buildings. Lisa's breath caught. This was just the beginning. "Lisa, we need to go now." Jake pulled her away. From the window, what had they ignited? What had watched them as they watched back? All she could think was, what did that message truly mean? And before Lisa could utter a word, a voice alien, melodic, and clear pierced the silence, resonating through them, chilling their very core. Humanity must choose. Submit or resist. The choice lay heavy on her shoulders. What would they decide? A jolt shot through Lisa as the voice echoed in her mind, tangled with the chaos that surrounded her. The crowd's panic morphed into an urgent frenzy, bodies thrashing against one another as they fought to process what they had just experienced. She could see fear flaring in Jake's eyes, his resolve fading under the weight of the unknown. Submit or resist? Lisa whispered to herself, grappling with the implications. What did that even mean? Around her, the room trembled. People stumbled, crying out in confusion. Children clung to their parents, tears streaking down dirty faces, while adults gestured wildly, trying to absorb the depth of that haunting call. The lights outside roared back to life, piercing the thick darkness like arrows targeting their hearts. "We need to decide," Michael shouted, his voice rasping as he leaned against a wall for support. "Do we wait for whatever that is to come for us, or do we run?" The question hung in the air, heavy and oppressive, suffocating any glimmer of hope. Lisa could feel it, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her. Everyone was looking at her. She was caught in the middle of a storm of emotions: fear, confusion, desperation. "Hold on!" She finally yelled, cutting through the noise. "What if it's not a threat? What if they mean to help us?" "Help?" scoffed a nearby man, his face contorted into a grimace. "They're towering over our homes. This is not help. It could be a warning." Lisa pressed back, her heart pounding louder than before. What if it knows something we don't? We owe it to ourselves to figure this out. Jake stepped closer, his brow knotted in thought, his hand still gripping hers tightly. "We can't just stand around. We need information." If the others, the ground shook violently again, slicing through their conversation. The screeching outside intensified, a mechanical wail of sheer chaos. It sent shivers down Lisa's spine. It felt as if the very earth was crying out in agony, warning them of impending doom. "Get to the emergency radio," Jake suddenly shouted. "We need to make sure we stay connected." As people began hurrying toward the back of the room, Lisa hesitated, her thoughts swirling. What about the message? The voice? She couldn't shake the feeling that she was meant to play a bigger role. She stepped away from the chaos, moving instinctively towards the center of the room, her pulse quickening. In the midst of the turmoil, she suddenly felt a shift. Her heart skipped as an enormous shadow loomed again at the window. Metal groaned and creaked as the colossal spacecraft moved, its hull revealed shimmering markings flashing synchronously with her pounding heart. It felt almost like it was keeping time with her, as if drawing her in. "Lisa." Jake's voice broke through her fog. "What are you doing? I have to know what it wants." She replied, feeling an irresistible pull toward the strange ship. "Please. Just hear me out." She took a deep breath, willing herself to stand firm against the tide of fear. "Maybe if we reach out, it'll understand." Before her friends could intervene, she stepped closer to the window, inhaling sharply as she did. The ship pulsed again, its light warm against her skin, an electric invitation that beckoned her to understand. She raised her hands, palms outward, exuding a mix of fear and hope. The brilliance began to swirl, merging into an intricate pattern. It felt almost alive, a heartbeat syncing with hers. She closed her eyes, concentrating, feeling the hum from the vessel vibrate within her bones. Humanity must choose. That voice returned, clearer now, resonating deep within her. They must decide before it's too late. In that instant, a realization crashed over Lisa like a wave. They had to make a decision, but the weight of that decision could change everything. "Submit or resist," she murmured, fully aware of the choice needing to be made. An agonizing moment stretched between hope and despair as she pondered what future awaited them if they resisted. What horrors would unfold if they surrendered? And just when she thought she had found clarity, the ship's light exploded into a kaleidoscope of colors, casting bizarre images across the room, images from a world not their own. Lisa gasped, her heart racing as she witnessed glimpses of an otherworldly landscape, alien creatures, and an unimaginable force brewing, drawing closer. "Lisa. What's happening?" Jake begged, panic flooding his voice, but all she could do was stare, gripped by the fear and exhilaration of understanding. The choice loomed before them, vast and unforgiving. Next chapter lingered in the air. What was the price they would pay for their decision? The kaleidoscope of colors enveloped the room, spiraling outward like an explosion of emotions. Lisa felt the images pierce her mind, wrapping around her thoughts like tendrils seeking to pull her deeper into the mystery. The cries outside faded into an echo, and in that split second, all she could hear was the pulsing rhythm of the ship syncing with her heartbeat. "Lisa!" Jake practically shouted, urgency clawing at his voice. "Snap out of it." Fingers trembling, she fought to pull herself from the otherworldly trance. The weight of the decision pressed heavier now, a tangible force muddied by the chaos around her. She saw parents gripping their children tightly, their faces twisted in anguish as they processed a reality that had shifted overnight. "What if it's showing us the truth?" she whispered, her gaze darting between Jake and the swirling projections. "What if they know what's coming?" Jake shook his head, desperation in his eyes. "What if it's just a trap? We can't trust it." The brightness of the visions dimmed slightly, revealing a scene that chilled Lisa to her core, a devastated landscape, once vibrant, now reduced to ruins, and shadowy figures darting through the wreckage. Their movements were frantic, their eyes wide with terror, as a monstrous creature loomed in the distance. It felt visceral, like a postcard from a nightmare. "Do you see that?" She managed to breathe out, her heart pounding. It looks like destruction. Yes, and who caused it? Jake shot back. We can't just take everything at face value. But even as he spoke, she could see the uncertainty flickering in his eyes. It's our only chance to understand. A voice rose from the crowd, Michael, his tone igniting a ripple of unease. We need to listen. Just as the tension peaked, the ship outside shifted, its thrumming pulse crescendoing with urgency. The warm light grew blinding, forcing everyone to squint, and a resonant boom echoed through the air, vibrating the very walls around them. The ground quaked once more violently this time, knocking several people to the floor. What now? Someone cried out, panic spreading like wildfire. Lisa squeezed her eyes shut, darting back into the realm of colored lights. Tell us. What do we need to do? She cried out, pushing her hands even closer to the window. It was a plea, a desperate call for guidance. Humanity has moments to decide before despair consumes you. The voice reverberated through her, tinged with urgency and a haunting finality. Choose wisely, the price of each choice will shape your future. What futures? Lisa's voice broke as she searched the dark corners of her own apprehensions, daring herself to consider the unimaginable implications. Then, just when she thought she could grasp the meaning hidden within that pulsing brilliance, the images surged again. This time, they were sharper, clearer, and more terrifying. Flashing scenes of chaos, families torn apart, desperation written across their faces. Can't you see? Yelled a woman from the back, her voice trembling. There's nothing good about this. Lisa whirled around, her chest tight with conflicting emotions. We can't decide until we know what's at stake. We need to understand what will happen if we resist, or if we submit. The crowd was restless, arguments boiling beneath the surface. People debated fiercely, some seeking safety in the familiar, others drawn to the unknown paths unfolding in the enigmatic light. The movement felt like an electric current racing through the room. Amidst the chaos, Lisa's resolve hardened. We have to unite. We must gather our courage, decide together. But as her voice rose above the turmoil, doubt gnawed at her. She needed to convince them of a choice, but could she convince herself? Just then, the hull of the ship glowed an eerie crimson before the colors fractured into a spectrum of horrific visions, crowds of people gasping in terror, nuclear explosions bursting in brilliant displays, the earth itself writhing in suffering. The images froze in Lisa's mind, each searing with clarity. A wild scream pierced the air, breaking through the crowd, but it wasn't just one voice. It was guttural panic, ripping through the group, igniting pure terror. What if our time has already run out? Jake's question hung in the air, chilling Lisa to the bone. In that moment, the ground shook violently again, and she knew they had to act. An inexorable force pressed down, stealing her breath away. Could they really make a choice that felt so monumental? The looming dread intensified, leaving Lisa with one stark realization: every second counted. Would they risk it all to decipher the message? The spiraling lights beckoned her back, but she stood paralyzed, wondering what clarity awaited on the other side. The murmurs shifted to gasps as the unimaginable unfolded before them. Was this truly the tipping point? What choice would they make now, knowing the cost? The walls of the ship vibrated violently, groaning like a wounded beast. Hallucinations thrummed behind Lisa's eyelids, and the terrible visions continued to pulse in front of her, demanding her attention. Each image was worse than the last, and she swayed on her feet, feeling dizzy from the weight of the truth crashing down around her. Trust it or reject it, Lisa. We need to know. Jake's voice cut through the chaos like a razor. Fear twisted his features, and she could see there was a line drawn in the sand for him. We can't let them control us. Jake, you don't understand. I don't understand. He snapped, his frustration evident. You're willing to gamble everything based on a fantasy? You saw what it showed us. We might not have a choice left to make. The air thickened with indecision. They stood on the precipice of understanding, and every word they exchanged carried the weight of lives yet to be determined. Lisa's heart raced as she scrutinized the crowd. Fear had erupted into an unseen beast, clawing at hearts, suffocating hope. People murmured, their voices rising and falling like turbulent waves. Is submission really our only option? Michael pressed, desperation creeping into his voice. Before anyone could respond, the light shifted again, channeling through the ship's corridor. An unsettling hum filled their ears, rising to a crescendo that rattled the very bones within them. The colors morphed, sharp reds and ghastly greens overlapping, writhing like tortured souls. Dark, ominous figures materialized, and a wave of terror rolled through the crowd, faces paling at the sight. Lisa felt it, to a suffocating grip of inevitability squeezing her chest. What are they? She gasped, her voice barely above a whisper. They are what we will become if we don't act. Someone shouted from the back, the voice quaking with emotion. We can't ignore this. We must fight back. But Lisa's resolve wavered. What if fighting is what dooms us? She tried to sound steadier than she felt, exposing her uncertainty. The message, did it show us what to do? It's warning us, but can we decipher it? Jake clenched his fists, moving closer, eyes locked onto hers. Then we need to understand it together. We need to find the truth in these visions. Another tremor rocked the ship, silencing the crowd briefly, the air thick with unspoken tensions. Eyes shifted from one face to another, grappling with the urgency to act yet haunted by the dread of the consequences. Lisa's instincts screamed at her. We have to make it known, we have to broadcast what we see. Broadcast? To whom? The very people who think they control fate? Someone yelled, betraying a flash of bitterness. What if they're the cause? The room erupted into a chaotic sea of voices, emotions spiraling out of control like a whirlpool, dragging them all down. But in the midst of the cacophony, an undeniable chill slithered through her heart. The message could be humanity's final chance for survival or their total annihilation. Listen! She shouted, rising above the noise, desperately looking at the faces around her. If we keep arguing, we will miss our chance. We need clarity. We need to act, and we need to act now. Suddenly, the ship blared a deafening alarm, sharp and unsettling. Lights began to flicker ominously, casting sharp shadows that danced across the walls. Something felt imminent, even closer than grasped, like the dark edge of an approaching storm, overwhelming their senses. What are they warning us about? Someone gasped, eyes wide, face pale. It has to be something big, Michael offered, fear tightening his voice. But what? What's coming? As if in answer, a series of sharp explosions echoed outside, rattling the ship with a violence that sent everyone stumbling. Without hesitation, Lisa turned to Jake, her eyes desperate. We need to find out what's happening, and fast. But even as they prepared to move, a chilling thought gripped her. What if the warning was already too late? Could they unravel the chaos ahead, or would they find themselves caught in despair's unyielding grip? They had no time left. The floor trembled beneath their feet as another explosion outside rocked the ship, rattling every soul inside. The piercing alarm sent cold jolts of fear racing through Lisa, tightening her chest. Her instincts screamed at her to run, yet, where could they possibly go? The walls felt like they were closing in, amplifying the weight of dread that hung in the air like smoke. Quick! We need to get to the control center. Jake shouted above the chaos, grabbing Lisa's wrist. His grip was firm, almost possessive, as he pulled her away from the stunned crowd. People spilled out into the corridor, clutching each other, eyes wide with terror. Michael pushed through the throng, desperation etched on his face. What's the plan? We can't just blindly follow this madness. Blindly? Jake shot back. What choice do we have? If those visions were right, then sitting here could be our tomb. Then let us at least gather a few more people. Lisa urged, needing to believe there was strength in numbers. But the room had begun to fracture into chaos, with people shouting over each other, fear fanning the flames of panic. Suddenly, the lights flickered one last time before plunging the ship into a darkness so thick it felt alive. Gasps erupted like gunfire. "Stay calm." Lisa's voice broke through, though she felt anything but. She could hear the pounding of her heart mingling with the distant echoes of chaos outside. "We need to stick together." In the blackness, shadows melded, bodies shifting in confusion. Jake pressed against her, his breath warm against her neck. "We have to." A blinding light pierced the darkness, momentarily revealing figures outside the small porthole. Lisa squinted, heart racing. The silhouettes were distorted yet menacing, moving with purpose toward them. "We need to move now." Michael's voice broke the moment, something primal driving him. They surged forward, clinging to each other as they navigated the twisted corridors of the ship. The alarm blared, disorienting in its urgency, yet the real danger lay in whatever was outside waiting for them. What if those visions were right? Lisa pondered aloud, hurrying to keep pace. What if we are the last hope? It doesn't matter if they were right or wrong. Jake growled, gritting his teeth. "We're not done until we know the truth." As they neared the control center, the air grew colder, heavy with a palpable tension that made Lisa's heart race. They spotted the entrance ahead, its metallic door glowing ominously under the lights. But an unsettling presence surrounded it. Something shifted just beyond the threshold. "Stop!" someone shouted from within. "Get back!" The voice echoed, filled with dread and urgency. The sound reverberated through the corridor, freezing everyone in their tracks. "What the hell is going on?" Michael demanded, glancing to Lisa and Jake. But Lisa felt an inexplicable pull toward the chaos inside. "We can't turn back now," she insisted as the door creaked open. At that moment, the crew members within stumbled out, fear etched across their faces. "They're coming. We need to." Before the man could finish, a deafening roar resonated through the ship, shaking the very foundation beneath their feet. The air thickened with an unspeakable dread, and shadows began to writhe, teeming with a dark energy that felt suffocating. Lisa squeezed Jake's hand tighter, right at the edge of an overwhelming unknown. She could feel its presence, drawing closer, and inside, a fierce intuition warned her that this was only the beginning. What lay beyond the door shifted ominously, absorbing hope, pushing them closer to a confrontation that might shatter them all. "Get ready," she whispered, though a lump rose in her throat as they prepared to face whatever awaited them on the brink of dazzling revelation and catastrophic despair. With their hearts racing and the air crackling with suspense, what awaited them on the other side of that entrance could change everything they thought was real. But would they be able to handle the truth? Would it save them, or lead them deeper into darkness? The door swung open, and a rush of icy air hit them, followed by a cacophony of mechanical whirring mixed with distant, echoing screams. Every instinct urged Lisa to bolt back down the corridor, but another roar echoed from inside, nearly making her legs buckle. "Go!" Jake shouted, his voice cutting through the tumult. He didn't hesitate as he pushed past the trembling crew members who had fled the control room. Lisa clutched his hand tighter, trying to steady her breath while the shadows danced menacingly around them. The control center was chaos, lights flickering wildly, casting an eerie glow over the screens that had once seemed so reliable. Monitors were glitching, displaying fragmented images of the ship's exterior, where vague shapes slithered and darted like phantoms against the backdrop of the star-speckled void. "What the hell is happening?" Michael shouted, his voice cracking with frustration. He scanned the room for answers, but the frantic energy made it feel like they were jumping through a nightmare abyss. "Run diagnostics," one of the crew shouted, desperately tapping on a control panel. "We need to know what we're dealing with." Lisa's heart raced as a figure stumbled before them. It was the ship's engineer, his face pale and drawn. They're coming for the power core," he gasped, panic etched in every line of his face. Jake's grip tightened on Lisa's wrist. What do you mean? Who is? The creatures from the outside. The engineer stammered, glancing over his shoulder in pure terror. They want to drain the ship's energy. If they take our core, we'll be lost out here. His eyes darted around the room, focusing briefly on Jake. We have to stabilize the power or we won't make it. Do we know where they're coming from? Lisa asked, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around them. The air felt thicker as the urgency mounted. Every second counted. Main deck. He yelled, scrambling to pull up schematics on the display. If we breach their perimeter, we can initiate lockdown procedures. But we have to move fast. Then we move. Jake said through clenched teeth, determination flaring in his eyes. He steeled himself, ready to charge forward, but Lisa hesitated, her heart racing in a different way. A dark thought pooled in her mind, the kind that froze her spine. Wait. What if we're not the only ones here? She could almost hear a whisper in the back of her mind, a warning too faint to grasp, yet too vivid to ignore. Don't start with that now, Michael snapped, fear still clawing at his throat. We don't have time for a loud bang interrupted him, vibrating through the hull, sending shards of fear straight to their cores. The lights flickered again, and a loud hiss followed by an unsettling silence left everyone breathless. I'll check the power levels. The engineer shouted, rushing toward a corner of the room, but just as he moved, the floor trembled once more, and the ship groaned in protest. Suddenly, a figure broke through the entrance, silhouetted by the flickering lights. They wore a tattered uniform, their eyes wide with sheer horror. They're inside. The newcomer yelled, his voice barely a whisper as sweat dripped down his forehead. Desperation sliced through the air, igniting Lisa's instincts and infusing her with adrenaline. This is our last chance. She urged, glancing between Jake and Michael. We either confront whatever's after us, or we run into a trap. But either way, we can't stay here. Michael's eyes flared, and he nodded. Let us get to the power core. We do it together. Just as they turned, that same haunting roar filled the air. Shadows writhed closer, and in that moment, Lisa felt a chill creep down her spine, a mixture of knowing they were bound for danger and a flicker of hope that this could lead to their salvation. Let us move. Jake bellowed, rallying everyone, but as they sprinted toward the exit, Lisa stole one last glance back into the control center. The flickering lights caught the engineer's panicked expression, and for just a heartbeat, she wondered if the truth was more treacherous than they could ever imagine. Would they uncover what was lurking just beyond the shadows? With hearts pounding and breaths aching, they ran into the unknown, ready to face not only the lurking peril but perhaps the true depths of themselves. What awaited them outside was nothing short of a storm where darkness meets light, and every step carried the weight of fate. The metallic clank of their footsteps ricocheted down the narrow hallway, a staccato rhythm punctuated by the distant whirs and groans of a ship in agony. Jake surged ahead, his jaw set in grim determination, while Lisa and Michael followed closely, each breath heavy with dread and urgency. Why didn't anyone tell us about this? Michael shouted over the chaos, his anger palpable. How could we be blindsided like this? We can't think about that now. Lisa urged, trying to stifle the rising fear that clawed at her throat. Focus on getting to the power core. They rounded a corner, skidding to a stop as a flickering light revealed a group of crew members cowering at the end of the passageway. Their faces were drawn and haunted, eyes wide with terror. What are you doing? Jake barked, his voice commanding. We need to move. One crew member, a young woman with ashen skin, shook her head violently. It's too late. They're here, they'll take us all. Her voice trembled, and Lisa could see the madness glimmering in her eyes. Shut her up. Michael yelled, frustration boiling over. She's going to get us killed. Stop. Lisa grabbed Michael's arm, her heart hammering against her ribcage. We can't lose hope. We need everyone's strength right now. The air crackled with tension as shadows danced in the edges of the dim hallway. Jake turned to the crew, desperation pleading from his expression. You can either stay here and die or fight with us. We're heading to the core. Who's with us? Slowly, the young woman lowered her gaze, still trembling, but another crew member stepped forward, the flicker of resolve igniting in his eyes. I'll go, he said, his voice steadying. I have tools back in the work bay. If we can get to the core, maybe we can hold them off. Then let us move. Jake barked, and the tension in the air shifted as the group reorganized. As they pushed forward, the thunderous roar grew louder, almost deafening. Was it the creature's voice echoing in their confines, or merely the ship's own death throes? Lisa's heart raced as they approached the power core entryway, a massive, reinforced door engraved with warning signs. The proximity to the core both thrilled and terrified her. It felt like they were walking straight into the jaws of a leviathan. Stand back! The engineer shouted as he began to work on the access panel, sweat beading on his forehead. The screen flickered and hummed to life. I just need a moment to bypass the security lock. Lisa could hear the other crew members whispering about the horrors outside, fear spiraling within the walls. Every creak seemed to amplify their paranoia. The engineer was tense, fingers flying over the control panel. Hurry! Jake urged when suddenly, the power flickered and the lights dimmed. An eerie silence enveloped them, wrapping them in an unshakable unease. I don't like this. Lisa murmured, scanning the darkened corridor behind them. She felt it, an icy presence licked at the edges of her mind. Something or someone was hunting them. Then, without warning, the door behind them burst open. A grotesque figure lunged forward, mask-like face contorted in hunger, fangs elongated and glistening. The crew erupted into chaos as Lisa froze, her scream trapped in her throat. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw one of the engineers tackle the creature, only to be flung against the wall like a ragdoll. Run! Michael screamed. She snapped into action, grabbing Jake's hand, heart pounding as they dashed toward the looming door leading to the core. The engineers, desperate, began to fight, but Lisa's focus narrowed on the path ahead. The power core itself flickered dimly, awaiting the control panel's reactivation. It loomed before them like a heart that needed to be saved, and every second felt like a lifetime. I'm almost there. The engineer shouted, the shaky urgency in his voice exploding in her chest like a gunshot, but the shadows loomed closer, the sound of skittering feet echoing around them. Adrenaline surged as Lisa felt a flicker of hope. If they could just hold on. Then, a chilling realization crept into her mind, freezing her in place. Looking around, she began to wonder, what if the creatures wanted more than just energy? What if they were not alone in their intentions? Now! Jake yelled, breaking her from her thoughts. The door to the core slid open, revealing the pulsing heart of their ship, but the way ahead was fraught with shadows. As they stumbled inside, still panting from fear, Lisa couldn't shake her dread. Were they stepping into a trap laid out for them? Did they even know who or what they were up against? As the door sealed behind them, darkness washed over them again, and she knew this was only the beginning of a much deeper fight. When would they face the true forces threatening their lives aboard this forsaken ship? The power core's glow flickered in the dimness, casting an erratic light across their faces, stark shadows playing out every flicker of hope and fear. Lisa's heart thundered in her chest as they stepped deeper into the chamber, feeling the weight of every heartbeat echoing against the metallic walls. Prepare to stabilize the core. The engineer shouted, sweat soaking through his shirt as he desperately worked at the control panel. Lisa felt his urgency ripple through the air, tight enough to choke on. She glanced back toward the door, half expecting it to burst open again. The combat beyond was savage, muffled screams piercing the silence like knives, echoing the dreadful reality they were all facing. What if they get through? She whispered, trembling, trying to look strong but failing. We can't focus on that, Jake said, his voice steady yet strained. We have to do what we can here. In that moment, Lisa recognized the gravity. They had become unwilling warriors, bound to rally in the face of desperation. She took a deep breath, pushing a wave of despair into a corner of her mind. "Let us make this count," she encouraged, gripping Jake's hand, the warmth like a lifeline. The engineer finally turned to them, eyes full of fear and determination. "If we don't stabilize it now, we'll be swallowed. We'll lose everything." "We can do this," Lisa declared, urgency igniting her spirit. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for the truth. For humanity's future. As he input sequence after sequence, alarm lights pulsed, and the vibrations of the ship echoed like a monstrous heartbeat, intertwining with the chaos just outside the core chamber. The shadows loomed larger, racing toward them, slipping through the cracks in their fragile fortress. "Almost there, just a few more seconds," he panted, fingers flying over the controls. With that, an ominous laugh rippled through the air, deep and guttural, chilling every bone in Lisa's body. "You think this will save you?" A slender, alien silhouette broke into the room. It slithered with an unsettling grace, eyes glowing in the semi-darkness like burning coals, illuminating an unnerving confidence. "Stay back!" Jake shouted, stepping in front of Lisa, ready to protect her as the horror before them intensified. The figure didn't falter, its presence heavy like a gathering storm. "You fancy yourselves brave," it hissed, "but your courage is nothing more than a flicker against the darkness we bring." Lisa's breath caught. "What do you want?" She gasped, anger and fear twisting inside her. "We're not your prey." The shadow laughed, a sound that clawed against the edges of her sanity. "You are already trapped in our web. You think you can resist? Humanity's fate is sealed, dictated by choices long made." Despite the dread crushing down upon her, Lisa felt a surge of defiance rise from deep within. "You think we'll submit? You're wrong." She shouted, her voice a battle cry. A wave of courage rolled through her, igniting her will to stand firm. Just as the alien figure lunged, the lights above surged with a blinding radiance, blending all their fears and hopes into a single moment of clarity. The engineer's screen blinked, and green lights began to cascade across the power core's controls. "Now! Hold the core steady!" He bellowed through the noise. As Lisa and Jake joined him at the panel, the alien hissed, retreating momentarily from the sudden burst of energy. The lights pulsed, fueled by their desire to fight back. "Stabilizing, stabilizing," the engineer shouted, fingers going deftly over the panel. Each word echoed like a prayer, and hope shimmered amidst the pressure. Lisa felt her heart sinking with the machine. They were all intertwined in this moment of decision. Then, a roar erupted from the shadows, and a wave of darkness surged toward them. "Now!" yelled Jake, locking eyes with Lisa. Together. With a single motion, they pressed against the control panels, plunging their palms into the core's energy, sparks flying as color ignited around them. The warmth radiating through her body flooded her senses, igniting more than just survival instinct. It freed them into something greater. "Resist. Don't give in," Lisa shouted as the energy channeled through them, breaking against the looming shadows. The core pulsed violently, thrumming with power, igniting it like the sun. The alien's form distorted, shrieking as light surrounded them, consuming the darkness until it shattered into fragments. The weight of impending doom flickered into nothingness, as if the very fabric of reality twisted from one existence into another. In a blinding flash, everything ceased. The room fell silent, echoing with an otherworldly calm, a respite that felt both strangely foreign and achingly familiar. They had fought back against the unknown, but as Lisa opened her eyes, she realized it was a leap into the abyss. Breathless, they stood together, shadowed faces alight with determination. "What happened?" Michael's voice shook, awe mingling with fear as they surveyed their surroundings. And just like that, as the remnants of night fell away, they could see the shimmering remnants of the threat dissipating. The alien forms fled, melting back into the darkscape from which they had emerged. In place of shadows were vast expanses of starlight, shining brightly. The engineer staggered back, disbelief mixing with the exhilaration of surviving. "We did it!" he gasped. Their unity against the encroaching darkness had forged something powerful, something worth fighting for. Lisa felt the urge to laugh and cry simultaneously, an emotional release akin to stepping back into life after chaos. But the weight of their truth pressed against her heart like an anchor. "Did we really win?" she whispered, grasping Jake's hand. He nodded, still catching his breath, a fierce light igniting behind his eyes. "It's only beginning," he said softly, a spark of resolve settling in their stomachs. In that moment, as they stood bathed in the soft glow of new hope, she understood, they had taken the first step against the unknown, and together, they would define their own fate. As they prepared to forge ahead into the mystery of the universe, not just as survivors but as explorers, the realization settled deep: what lay ahead wouldn't just challenge them. It would reshape the very essence of humanity's journey through the stars. So let your voices be heard as we share our stories. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive tales unfolding in this universe. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm, and make sure to whirl through the comments section with your reactions and mind-blowing theories about this journey. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support helps shape this community into something incredible. With every click, we grow together.